I call to order this special meeting of the Scottsdale Unified School District Governing Board. Today is April 30th, and the time is 6 p.m. Welcome to everyone who's here. Vice President Lindsay, will you please lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We will have a roll call of the board members, starting from my far right.
Karen Warner.
Amy Carney.
Julie Sanowski.
Zach Lindsay.
And Libby Hart-Wells. We have 5 board members present. We have a quorum of the board, and we will proceed with district business. I received no requests for amendments to the agenda as presented. Therefore, I move to approve the agenda as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Sanowski seconds. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? That motion passes 5-0. Dr. Menzel, we'll turn it over to you for your superintendent comments.
Well, thank you, President Hart-Wells, Vice President Lindsay, and member of the governing board. I want to just highlight a number of celebrations that we have this evening. Every time we turn the page in the calendar, we have a number of things that are celebrated, and tomorrow is National Principal Appreciation Day. So I'd like to actually take a moment and ask all of the principals who are in the room to please stand so that we can recognize you. We are truly fortunate to have such an outstanding group of educational leaders and appreciate those who are here this evening and those who are watching at home or taking care of other activities on their campuses tonight. We do appreciate all that they do. And on Friday, May 3rd, it's School Lunch Hero Day. Do we have any of our nutrition service workers here? We want to make sure that on every campus, our school nutrition workers are recognized for the work that they do in supporting our students, making sure they get fed healthy breakfast and lunch, and supported in that part of their school day. Next week is National Teacher Appreciation Week, so I would like to ask any teachers who are in the room to please stand. Again, we are so grateful for the talent, the dedication, the hard work. This time of school year is particularly challenging, and so we want to make sure that they feel special every day, but especially during National Teacher Appreciation Week. And on May 8th, it's National School Nurse Day. Do we have any of our nurses in the room? All right. As you know, or maybe you don't know, not every district is fortunate enough to have a school nurse on every campus, but Scottsdale does, and it truly makes a difference in supporting the health and wellness of our students, so I'm grateful for our school nurses. May is also Asian Pacific Islander Month, and it's a nice time to remind people about the amazing dual language immersion program in Mandarin that we have at Desert Canyon Elementary School and Desert Canyon Middle School, leading into Desert Mountain High School. And so we'll be acknowledging that. And then last Friday, one of the best ways to end a week is to celebrate an exemplary principal award given by the county superintendent, Steve Watson, and it was given to Chuck Rantala at Hohokam. And I just say this, we had a conversation a few weeks before the surprise presentation, and he told me that the site visit went really well. He was pretty sure, that it went well, and I didn't let in on at all that we knew he was going to get it, and so he was surprised that day. But the best part of the surprise was that his parents drove from Michigan to be there to celebrate with him, along with his students and staff, so that was very exciting. Things that are on the horizon, and there are a lot, these are just a couple, but this week, tomorrow night, it's the Coronado Promise signing dinner. I believe we have another 42 or so Coronado Promise recipients that will be celebrated. And on Thursday, we host the Scottsdale Honors Its Own, or SHIO reception, honoring our retirees along with those who have reached milestone years of service within Scottsdale Unified School District. Also happening on Thursday, difficult to be 2 places at once, but one can always try, is the Middle School Track Championship that evening. So the month of May is an opportunity for us to recognize, celebrate, and honor those who have been working so hard as we get to the end of the school year, and we'll celebrate more on May 14th, but that concludes my report this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Menzel. Congratulations, Principal Rantala. Well-deserved award. All right, we are going to move into our information discussion items, and first up is our final update for the fiscal year 2024 from our 3 employee associations. So if we could have our representatives come to the podium. Who would like to start? Carrie.
Good evening. It's been a while. Greetings, governing board members, Dr. Menzel, Gladys, and guests. As the president of the Scottsdale Support Professionals Association, I am again motivated to address the importance of embracing the interest-based negotiation IBN process as we navigate critical discussions and decisions in our district. IBN offers a collaborative framework that prioritizes understanding each party's underlying interests, fostering transparent communication, and seeking mutually beneficial solutions. By focusing on shared goals and interests rather than rigid positions, we can cultivate a culture of trust, respect, and cooperation amongst all stakeholders involved. This approach not only promotes more sustainable employee agreements, but also fosters a sense of ownership and commitment to the outcomes needed. As we move forward in addressing the challenges and opportunities facing our district, I urge us to continue to embrace the principles of IBN process along with our district mission and vision, working together in pursuit of solutions that serve the best interests of our students, staff, and culture. Our IBN process is not synonymous with disorder. Instead, it embodies inclusivity. Inclusion serves as one of the fundamental pillars of our strategic action plan's core values. I implore each of us to prioritize these values in our thoughts as we participate in pivotal discussions impacting our students and staff. Previously, governing board members have demonstrated integrity, another core value, in the process by seeking insights from association leaders, fostering understanding through our lens. Moreover, concerns have been openly communicated to us, allowing for internal improvement and initiatives. However grateful for the 2% increase, I do need to share that during the most recent group meeting, we collectively affirmed that our decision to recommend the 1% increase was a prudent financial choice, ensuring adequate funds for employee compensation in the upcoming year. Some individuals who addressed the governing board may have lacked accurate information from the IBN process and appeared to advocate primarily for personal interests rather than representing the broader employee classification. Nevertheless, I am pleased to announce that the SSPA IBN team has welcomed 2 new members who have previously demonstrated their commitment to challenging assumptions and advocating for all staff, particularly those in a lower salary bracket. I commend our classified staff for their proactive approach in seeking clarification and understanding with us, rather than resorting to unilateral actions. We value the trust we have established with this governing board, district administration, and our fellow associations concerning the integrity of the IBN process, as it is essential that it continues and that those participating in IBN undergo training to gain a deeper understanding of representing all staff members, individual classifications, and the collaborative opportunity to assess the impacts on all staff. Dr. Menzel, the SSPA expresses gratitude for your exemplary leadership in ensuring representation and voice not only for our members, but for all classifications. Thanks to your efforts, classified staff serving on the front line with students have been consistently included in decision-making processes that affect the district. Your support for classified staff is evident. We appreciate your service, and we extend our thanks to you and this governing board for this opportunity to provide an update from your education support professionals.
Good evening. As president of the SCA, it has been an immense privilege privilege to collaborate with our employee association and district leadership over the past 4 years. Together, we have made significant strides in supporting our educators, students, and the Scottsdale community. 4 years ago, educators in Scottsdale were still reeling from the loss of an employment agreement that had once provided certainty around working conditions and gave them a voice in their profession. By forging collaborative relationships and committing to forward progress, guided by strong and steady leadership that values the voices of all educators in decision-making, we enshrine the right to meet and confer in board policy. My strongest guiding principle through this work has been that educators thrive and are at their best for students when they have the necessary supports in place to do their jobs well. That is what our students deserve. That is what we are able to accomplish by participating in the interest-based negotiations process. And because of this work, we once again have a certified employment agreement that guides our work with students. As this school year draws to a close, I recognize that the optimism of our educators is somewhat dimmed by increases in healthcare premiums that for many have negated approved salary increases. Now more than ever, we must collaborate to find sustainable solutions to burgeoning healthcare costs for all of our employees and advocate for meaningful increases to educator pay at the legislative level. We must also consider the critical need to address workload issues to further avoid burning out our invaluable educators through the next school year and beyond. Our team is looking forward to continuing to work through the IBN process as collaborative problem solvers to address compensation, workload management, and other challenges we face in our professions. With continued partnership, good faith on all sides, and consistent, steadfast leadership, I am confident we will continue to make Scottsdale an even better district for our students and staff alike. Thank you for your ongoing support of our educators and Scottsdale students. SCA looks forward to our continued progress together.
Good evening, Dr. Menzel, Governing Board members, Gladys, and audience members. We are the co-presidents of Scottsdale Administrators Association. I am Shelley Humman, and this is my very esteemed colleague and friend, Dr. Lisa Hirsch. The Scottsdale Administrators Association is strong and proud of our work together. We are grateful for the cadre of leaders at the district level and the phenomenal community of teachers, support staff, classified staff, and others that make our district second to none. We also appreciate you, the school board, for the countless hours as elected officials protecting the rights of our students to have the best public schools possible. We are thankful for the board's diversity in thought, its ability to ask questions, and to keep us focused on the future of our amazing students who attend each and every one of our schools. We want to thank you tonight for your continued support in understanding the challenges of the daily work a principal and assistant principal faces. The changing human needs over the course of the last few years has made it paramount to have at least 2 administrators in every building to lead the shift out of COVID and to address the new classroom needs. Additionally, our goal is to lead the teachers through the adoption of a new evaluation tool, as well as to keep up to date and aligning to our continuous improvement plans with the new and excellent District Cognia accredited strategic plan is a really wonderful challenge. We are proud to be aligned and supported through our mission for proper multi-tiered systems of support implementation, as well as the evolving curriculum changes that meet our newest state assessments and benchmarks. We are proud that you recognize that to continue to attract and retain excellence, we need to understand that assistant principals are especially uniquely qualified and adept at anything we put in their place, including Dean of Students. We also recognize that when schools are smaller, the assistant principal and principal can be called to district duties as well, but to be located in a school rather than centrally on a day-to-day basis increases the ability to guarantee school safety.
Thank you. At this time, we want to share our support for our superintendent, Dr. Menzel. We look at the district's direction with great pride in our strategic plan and our recent K-12 accreditation because of the excellent plans that we have in place and the fact that we are hitting our benchmark goals. We should truly celebrate that in all of the districts and all of our districts in Arizona that we were chosen by our Cognia accreditors as the leaders in the state. Dr. Menzel's direction for forging the strategic plan in a collaborative manner has made our district one of the strongest, with increasing levels of achievement each year since its inception. The KPIs allow us to direct funding and strong academic planning toward goals that matter and students' futures at every turn. We can defend the need to keep our strong integral leadership positions at the schools where it matters most and in the district where there are accountability measures that we must meet and exceed. The district direction is based on collective values where there is room for every school of thought at the table as we collaborate together. We are doing well as a district because we are given flexibility and encouragement. We are trying new things like a capital committee, but we are also allowed autonomy to ask and share what is on our mind. We do not fuss about the small stuff, and we celebrate good news within our schools at all of our SAA meetings. The direction we are provided by Dr. Menzel and by our district leaders provide us strength and continuity. As an organization, we believe strongly in the IBN process. We cannot imagine any other negotiating process that is inclusive and grows organically from the outlined budget we are presented with from the start, or as early as we can get our hands on it. We have agreed as employment groups that the process is sacred and a unifying one, and we must continue to work together as one team.
So just to highlight, some of our accomplishments in SAA this year include a membership that surpasses prior years at above 94%, encouraging the directors to have their own interest group.
Also, we have a monthly meeting that is SAA presidents with the, well, pardon me, let me backtrack. We have a monthly meeting as SAA presidents with the head of IT, which is very helpful to our constituents. We also seek input and give input into staff development days, and we will have a place at the table to plan the Administrators Academy coming up this coming year.
We have very well-attended meetings at our SAA meetings that we follow Robert's rules, and we promote the health benefits explained to our staffs in a timely manner and in more depth.
We also made it our business this year to not cut assistant principals, and also, most importantly, to have more social and family gatherings for administrators, which helps to attract and retain through camaraderie.
And in closing, as Dr. Menzel mentioned, it is the eve of Principal Appreciation Day, and we just want to thank all of our colleagues and friends that are SAA members for their service because kids. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to all of you. Dr. Menzel, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Well, I want to thank the association leaders and point out that we do have a board approved fourth group that will join these reports next year. But appreciate you pointing out the importance of the IBN process, the collaborative nature, and the fact that we need to start earlier. I think those are really good themes. And then I would just capitalize and underscore one team. Thank you for the work that you do on behalf of kids.
Thank you. All right, we will move to our next item, the first read school calendars 2025-26, school years 2026-27, and 2027-28 for the next 3 years. Dr. Benson, Dr. Bono, and Mr. Crozier.
Appreciate the support from our tech team. Good evening, President Hartwells, Vice President Lindsay, board members, Dr. Menzel, Ms. Wagner, and all joining us here in person or online this evening. A point of clarification as we get started. SUSD has board-approved instructional calendars through next year, the 24-25 school year. So tonight we bring forward as a first read the preferred calendar choices of various stakeholders for the 25-26, 26-27, and 27-28 school years, and the process and data points we use to arrive at this first read this evening. Want to first give a shout out to the task force members that carved out time to engage in this work. Invite those that are here with us to wave and be recognized. We have a handful. Yes, there you go. And acknowledge the significant contributions of Dr. Bono and Sean Crozier, who joined me in leading efforts this spring and who are at the podium with me this evening. Also want to thank Dr. Bachna for her support in using Parent Square to invite stakeholder feedback to truly shape the calendars that we are bringing forward for your review this evening. Those that have participated in this work previously know that calendar work is a bit of a beast, and I'm grateful for the shared leadership demonstrated across our team to try to keep this most simple, and in our purposeful efforts to invite feedback and input from our parents, staff, and students represented by our Student Advisory Board along the way. We established the structure and timeline of our work during the second quarter, listening to team members that were part of the last calendar committee about what worked and what lessons we might learn from that experience. And we established a task force representative of various departments to guide our process this year. As a task force, we reviewed data and key dates where we experienced higher rates of absenteeism from students or staff in our previous instructional calendars. We identified challenges to future calendars based on where holidays and conferences fall. We reviewed other Valley Districts' instructional calendars and required instructional days and minutes by the state. And most important, we established that we wanted to cast a wide net and invite staff, community, and student input prior to developing any draft calendars for consideration. To provide an initial means to invite input, task force members identified a broad range of questions that would allow us to learn of the priorities of our families, our staff, and our students, and ensure future calendars reflect priorities indicated in the goals and commitments in our strategic plan. We sent this comprehensive survey to all stakeholders via Parent Square, inviting persons to indicate which factors were most important to consider to guide us in the construction of these future calendars. While feedback about inviting stakeholder feedback has been very positive, we did receive a handful of questions early on about whether or not the calendars were already created and whether there were some agendas behind some of the questions. And so just wanted to take an opportunity to clarify our only motivation for creating the initial survey was to learn of the most important considerations of our stakeholders, to allow us to use those considerations to generate the calendar options for your consideration. We received just shy of 5,000 responses to this initial the initial survey, and results specific to each stakeholder group are linked in this presentation and were included in the information sent to the board last week. I'm going to just try to click on, maybe, the first of the links to give those in attendance an overview of kind of what it looked like. We asked all kinds of questions to get a feel for what our stakeholders believe is most important and kind of to respond to certain questions that we received. For example, one of the questions in the survey involved, should we try to do graduations on different evenings? Because we've had that request from a handful of persons, so we asked about that because we weren't sure what the need or the priority or the consideration for that would be. And that didn't come out as something for us to pursue, given, I think, persons recognize the complexity of if it's on too many different nights, seniors need to come back to school after they graduate, and that is a concern from parents, seniors, and community members and staff members. So we posed questions about start dates, end dates, how important it was to end school specific to Memorial Day. We asked questions about whether or not it's important that our school calendar reflects or mirrors peer districts, especially those that are our neighboring districts. We posed questions about the 4-day school week. Persons had asked us about what the interest amongst our staff and our community and our students might be in pursuing that. That was the most divided response we received from staff and families. We'll talk more about that in a minute. We talked more about, or we invited our stakeholders to indicate, do they want our calendar to look like some of our peer districts who have gone to almost year-round examples with a couple weeks off in between each quarter. And we asked questions about additional early release time, ending finals before or having semesters that equal the same amount of days so we could have final exams before the winter break, etc. So I'm not going to go through all of the details of each of these, but just kind of wanted to give those in attendance a feel for what that survey looked like for all stakeholder groups. And we did disaggregate the data by all stakeholder groups, which was really important because it differed in a couple of key areas. All right, team. There we go. Key data points that emerged that we used to determine draft options for next calendars included that staff, families, and students value starting as late in the summer as possible, but ensuring that we end prior to Memorial Day. So for us, that means a start in early August and not July. Prioritizing a district recess the Wednesday prior to Thanksgiving Day was indicated as of significant interest of all of our groups. And ensuring a balance of semesters so final exams can be wrapped up prior to winter break was also shared as important from all of our stakeholder groups. Again, the noteworthy difference, staff indicated much more of an interest in exploring a 4-day week than our families. Given this was not a shared consideration or interest, our task force team members did not include a 4-day week as a calendar choice for consideration. Wanted to point out that we also ran the comments. There were almost 5,000 comments. We ran it through Claude to provide a synthesis of comments and reiterate the need to use a critical lens when we're using AI, as while it is such a powerful time saver, without disaggregating the results and careful analysis, one could get the wrong impression just by looking at the synthesis that's also been included of our survey comments. So, based on the nearly 5,000 responses to the initial survey, our lead facilitators, Sean and Christine, went to work generating 3 calendar options for the task force to consider for the 25-26, 26-27, and 27-28 school years, each similar to the current calendars that we are using in SUSD right now. Task force members carefully reviewed those responses from our surveys and the 3 calendar options. They identified some important minor tweaks we needed to make and recommended 2 viable options per year for stakeholders to indicate their preference. We sent those 2 options to all stakeholder groups again as a survey via Parent Square using the messaging that we captured on this slide. And while the results are linked, I've got the percentages on the next slides that we'll review here too. I'm happy to share that though margins of approval differed, results of our second survey indicated agreement of the first calendar choices each year from our family, staff members, and students. That makes a recommendation coming as a first read much easier to our governing board. Commonality is shared between all 3 options that have been identified as first choices. Receiving the most votes include all 3 reflect students starting in August and on a Monday. The last day of school for students is before Memorial Day, and each of the calendars recommended includes a full week of fall and spring break and 2 weeks for winter break. Recognizing the value and impact of teacher collaboration, planning time, and quality professional development on student learning, teacher retention, and school performance, and yet balancing that our families really value students' instructional time with our teachers, each of the proposed calendars reflects 10 opportunities for PD distributed throughout the year, and all but one of those is reflected as an early release. Thus, for the 2025-26 school year, I think if I click on this, 75% of our parents and families, 70% of our staff, and 68% of our student advisory board students. I'm not sure if that's going to work. There we go. These have been included in board docs too, but that's a little bit bigger capture or picture of the recommended 25-26 option 1 calendar that received the most votes. And again, this is a first read, so persons can read for further detail in between our first and second read. Thank you, tech team. For the 2026-27 school year, thank you, nicely done. I think it's 62% of our parents, 52% of our staff, and 76% of our students indicated a preference for the option 2, or it's option 1 on the screen in front of us. I'm gonna have us scoot back. 67%, I apologize. And we're gonna go to the next one, tech team. There we go. And for the 27-28 school year, 62% of our parents, 53% of our staff, and 61% of our student advisory board indicated a preference for option. There we go, option 2. Thank you. And we can click on and expand that. There we go. Again, included in board documents are all 3 recommended choices from our stakeholder groups. There we go. While no instructional calendars are perfect, we're confident the recommendations brought forward to you as a first read this evening reflect what the majority of stakeholders who completed our surveys have indicated is most important. Again, big thanks to our task force and to all completing the surveys and sharing feedback throughout this journey, and big thanks to the colleagues who led this journey with me. Next steps, second read is scheduled for our next board meeting in May. And pending governing board approval, we would hope to have finalized calendars posted prior to the end of the school year for our parents, staff, students, and community to have access to for future planning. With that, we invite your questions and feedback, and I'm going to bring Sean and Christine here too, to acknowledge their efforts and allow them to help respond to some of the detailed questions.
Board members, are there any questions or comments? Ms. Sanowski?
No questions, but appreciation for this work, because sometimes this stirs up people. So thank you.
Any other comments or questions? All right, very good. Thank you very much for the presentation. All right, we are going to move on to our next discussion information item. First read of the Governing Board Policy GCO regarding evaluation of professional staff members. Looks like Ms. McLennan is coming to the lectern.
Thank you, Tech Team. Madam President, members of the Governing Board, Dr. Menzel and Ms. Wagner. Presented before you is a first read of changes to Governing Board Policy GCO, which concerns the evaluation of professional staff members. Some of the changes, as noted within the black line or compared version, were recommended by your current policy provider, the Arizona School Boards Association, but the district worked on and provided a new definition of inadequate classroom performance within the body of the proposed Governing Board Policy GCO. This was as a result of the Danielson Framework for Teaching Task Force that was assimilated by your district. That task force, which Dr. Lugo is here to answer questions about if you have any, met for a total of 5 times in February and March, and this was one of the pieces of information that they worked on, was arriving at a new definition of inadequate classroom performance. So this is presented for a first read, and I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Ms. McLennan. Board members, are there any questions? No questions. All right, thank you, Ms. McLennan.
No problem. Thank you.
All right. Moving on to our next item, the safety and security update, audit and Raptor Technologies, and I believe Mr. Friedman will be leading that discussion.
Good evening, President Hartwells, Vice President Lindsay, board members, Dr. Menzel. On December 6, 2023, the Joint Legislative Audit Committee, JLAC, approved a resolution at the state directing the Auditor General to complete a series of special audits related to school safety, emergency response practices, as well as the School Safety Interoperability Fund. This audit will result in a publicly released audit report, which is due to the legislature on or before December 31st, 2024. Scottsdale School District, well, all districts across the state were sent out a questionnaire. Based on that questionnaire, the Auditor General then selected certain districts for paperwork to be selected for the initial rounds of audits. Fortunately, or unfortunately, we were selected as one of the schools. We submitted our paperwork and then had on-site visits. We were fortunate that we were the first on-site visit, so most schools will get 2 or 3 auditors. We had all 10 of the auditors there. And the reason they came is, as a group, was to make sure that as they proceeded out to other districts, that their methodology was all standardized. And so we not only were audited, but we helped educate the auditors in terms of what to look for, what best practices are, and hopefully made a big impact. So our first submittal to the Auditor General was about 2,000 pages and include all of our emergency operations plans, included all of our site plans, and all of that based on, protected, both under PCII statute, which is protected critical infrastructure information, as well as the Attorney General's office has their own statute that protects them, that protects all of our documents when we send it to them for an audit. So although we gave them a lot of our critical infrastructure information, it's all protected. The second submittal after they decided that they were going to come audit us was approximately 800 pages, and that was follow-up on the initial stuff as well as proof of our systems that we have in place. Day one, we were supposed to have 2 days of audit. It turned out to be 4 days. The first day they met here at district office, they met with myself and our Director of Student Services. They basically split the audit into 2 parts. The first part was the physical security that I dealt with, and the second part was threat assessments for students and behavioral issues. So they met with Shannon Cron for that piece. In the afternoon on the first day, they went over to Mojave Middle School, and they let us know the day before which schools they were going to go to, so we didn't have time to prepare. When we got to the school, they gave us we gave them a staff list, and they chose the names of teachers and staff that they wanted to interview. So nobody could be prepared. We weren't, from the district, weren't allowed to be present, and they interviewed all of the staff. At Mojave, they interviewed 6 teachers. 2 were SPED teachers, special education teachers, and then 1 was a substitute there for the day. They interviewed the principal and the assistant principal, the school psychologist, and the school resource officer. So it was a pretty wide gamut of interviews. Day 2, we started out with a systems discussion of the security processes. So we talked about our lockdown system, the identifications for the students, the identifications for staff, our public address systems, as well as our accountability system for our buses, the visitor management system, and our radios and communication and how we get messaging out to parents. That was all in the morning of the second day, and then we went to Arcadia High School, where they, again, took the roster of teachers and randomly picked names for us. And again, it was 6 teachers, 1 special education teacher and 1 substitute, 2 assistant principals, the psychologist, the school resource officer, and the school resource officer sergeant. Part of the reason after the fact that we were told that they picked the schools they did is, as you'll see, one of the other schools they picked was Kiva, is they got all 3 of the jurisdictions that we work with our different police agencies in. So they met with the 3 different police agencies. Day 3, we went to Kiva. They met with 7 teachers, including us, 1 special education and a sub. You can see the theme. They tried to always pick a sub. They would literally say, okay, who's got a substitute today? And we'd have to figure that out. Principal, assistant principal, psychologist, and the front office staff. And then late edition in the afternoon, they heard about Pueblo and the new design that we had at Pueblo that was differing than most of our other schools, and they asked to go see that, so we took them over to Pueblo in the afternoon and let them see the new design that we have there and how we've mitigated the safety features there. And then on day 4, they said, well, we missed a lot of people. So you can see from there where they interviewed the Arcadia principal who was out when they were on the campus, her administrative assistant, director of communications, the district athletic director, student services, IT, special ed. And then they went back out to Kiva because Kiva had an evacuation drill planned that day, and they got to go watch an evacuation drill happen. They tested our radio system and wanted to see how it worked across the district. We were able to communicate from Desert Mountain to Arcadia without a problem. And then we also showed them how the visitor management system worked. So as a visitor management system, it's the brand name manufacturer is Raptor. It is currently up on and available to use on all of our campuses on an office computer. We have the self-service kiosk as of today is running on all of our campuses except for 1, and the only reason it's not running there is the front office staff got the flu, and they asked us to come back another day when they weren't so contaminated. We've checked in just under 10,000 people in the system district-wide since January 1st. And we've estimated using this software and the regular sign-in list that we average in the district about 2,900 visitors a week across our campuses. The volunteer system, so the Raptor system has a visitor portion as well as a volunteer portion. We have not had a chance to get the volunteer system up and running this year. We have been using the system that was designed last year, and it has been running efficiently. And part of the reason that we haven't done it is we did not have everything up and running yet. And on the visitor side, which was a heavy lift. So the setting the system up has incorporated the use of our IT department, the security department, each of the sites, we had an outside building services, we had an outside contractor, we had to get new ports put in. So we had the opportunity to push the system out quicker, and we decided that we would hold off and do it systematically and make sure that although that we could have done it piecemeal, that we waited until it was all up and running. So we have contacted, or we are in contact with the Raptor Corporation company, and we are working to get a credit for the the volunteer piece of the system that we did not use this year, that we will push towards future years as we implement the system, because we have an ongoing contract with them. Thank you to you guys for the next few years to use the visitor management system. And that's the update on the audit and the Raptor system. Any questions?
Board members, any questions or comments? Ms. Warner?
Yeah, thank you for that presentation. I'm glad that security is top of mind. You mentioned that our systems are up and running at all our campuses except one.
Yes, and
Okay.
Redfield is the only one that doesn't have the kiosk system running. The computer behind the desk runs, but the kiosk does not run currently.
Okay. And the volunteer system, which is what we were pushing for last year to get up and running, is not running. I just want to make sure that we heard you correctly.
That is correct. We are still using the system that was designed that is not part of Raptor.
And then what has been the feedback on the system?
Positive so far. We haven't heard much pushback. Obviously, when learning a new technological system, there's been some challenges with site staff learning how to do it, and then with some of the visitors, parents or whatever, not having IDs. There is a way, if you don't have an ID, to still get onto campus. Each person, if you don't have your ID, you can type in your information. You get 2 opportunities to do that. On the 3rd time, it flags you, and the administrator can have on-site gets notified, and they can have a conversation with you. If you at that point, if you just forgot your ID, that's one thing. If you fail to want to do it, we've had several parents that said that they don't want to do it, then at that point we will talk with them, and they will still have access to conferences or whatever, but they will not be allowed onto the campus. The conferences will be up in the front office. And then we've had some people whose IDs won't work for whatever reason, and we've had the ability to enter them in manually and verify it other ways.
Thank you.
Any other board member questions or comments? Ms. Carney?
All right, thank you for the presentation. I've just got a few questions for you. Regarding the bus accountability systems, can you give us an update on the Stop Finder app? Because I know there was a point where that wasn't working. Is that up and running and working?
I'm going to defer to Shannon on that.
Thank you for the question. There were some glitches with that early on. We have been working with the software company with that. And as far as I know, or has been shared with me, that yes, that system, we have worked through glitches, and it, as far as I'm aware, is working.
Okay. Thank you. And then can you tell us about the handheld metal detectors that we currently use, the wands that we've purchased?
So
Was that a part of this, or?
They asked about the wand usage, and currently the wands are we have wands at all of our high schools and all of our middle schools. They are only used by trained staff when they have reasonable suspicion. So basically this is, you suspect somebody we'll use a vape, for example, or some other piece of contraband. They already have that suspicion, and they're going to conduct a search anyway. This is a less invasive search, and basically they have the ability to tell the student that, you know, we are going to use this, and if something is found, then, you know, you need to produce it. So it allows them to search without actually having to search somebody's body or clothing or whatever else. It is only used on the campuses when they have reasonable suspicion by a trained person.
And so we have one on each high school and middle school campus, or?
Correct.
And in February, I'd asked from the dais and an email about a presentation to learn more about the weapons detection system. And some districts are currently using that. Is there anything being done on that? Because nothing was mentioned at all about where we're headed to protect
So-
our students and staff.
So currently, we have been looking at several systems. I have talked to several of our neighboring districts who have purchased various systems. I had a meeting today, as a matter of fact, with a company that does do those. We have not moved forward on any of it. One, it's not in the budget for this year, and they're very cost prohibitive. And two, it would be something that we'd have to have discussions internally and then bring to the board for further discussion in terms of what your flavor is in terms of looking at how do we do this, how do we roll it out? Because the large breadth of what's available now technologically could be cost prohibitive in a lot of ways, and so we just need to look at what's out there before we bring it forward. But
Okay, so you are continuing to look into that and see if that's something that would work for our district.
yes.
And I know you had mentioned that you were looking into, the district was looking to do clear backpacks for students. Is that something that you're still considering?
So at Mountainside, after we had the incident up there, we did a survey of the Mountainside community in terms of what their thoughts were about going to clear backpacks just for that school as a trial run. And it was a resounding no for 100 different reasons or more. Basically, everything from clear bags are not practical. Kids bring instruments and all kinds of sporting equipment and don't have the rooms and all the room in the bags that are currently available, to the materials and who's going to purchase them. And so it was a resounding no for that, but we are still considering all options for student safety.
Okay, and my last question is, have we implemented better training for our substitute teachers? Because I know that was an issue earlier on. Have we implemented any new training for them on safety measures?
So we are working to roll that out for next year. We do have a new class for them. I was excited that the auditors chose to talk to substitutes, and then I was very optimistic because every substitute they interviewed after the fact knew what to do and knew the procedures, and because that was one of my concerns. And when the audit started, they asked me what I felt our three major vulnerabilities were, and training of our staff, especially our subs, was one of them. And when they came back at the end, they said that they were impressed with how much the subs actually knew. So we do need to get better at it. We need to get better at it with all of our staff, but I was happy to know that they knew what to do and they understood, and we didn't have any influence on it because I didn't know until they got there who they were going to talk to.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Warner, do you have more comments?
Thank you, yes. Real quick, if the board could be notified when that credit comes back for the volunteer portion that we paid for that we didn't use. Thank you.
And Ms. Sanowski?
Thank you, Board President Dr. Hartwells. Mr. Freeman, can you just, for public information, share why the report is not shared with the public?
So the Auditor General's report, portions of it will be made public once it's all, I'll call it sanitized, but basically the Auditor General's report and any information that we discuss, specifics regarding security, is not public because that information, we don't want to put our vulnerabilities out to allow people to, we don't want to tell them where our holes are and if they want to look and do nefarious actions for our, against our students or our campuses.
Thank you for that explanation.
All right, thank you, Mr. Friedman. I have one request as a follow-up that you can just share with us when it's ready, a cost estimate of the time to comply with the audit, as well as kind of estimated lost productivity hours. Thank you. All right, we are moving on to our last information discussion item, 4E, ASU Accelerated Learning. Ms. Downs.
Good evening, Governing Board President Dr. Hart-Wells, Governing Board members, Dr. Menzel, Gladys, and the audience. I'm here tonight to bring some exciting information about a new opportunity that we would like to explore for a pilot. This would be a partnership between ASU's Accelerated Learning, which is a fairly new division that they have for dual enrollment. So in the background information in your board docs, there's a small summary there that's pretty good, but I wanted to also just show you a few highlights on the slideshow. We do currently offer CIS 105 dual enrollment, but right now it's only at Chaparral as an interdepartmental class. CIS 105 does meet post-secondary computer literacy graduation requirements for all Arizona University and colleges. So it's a highly sought-after class that we've tried to offer, feels like since the dawn of time. I myself taught it as dual enrollment at Coronado High School 20 years ago. So it's a good class that provides a lot of skills. So the other reason I get excited about CIS 105 in particular, instead of some of the more major-related computer classes, is it also will satisfy the statistics quantitative applications requirement, which is what all the science majors need. So it would be for everybody. There's a lot of text on here, but this is also in the flyer that was handed out to you, and it's linked in the show. Mostly we wanted to try the facilitated model because we already do have teachers in the classroom that we can utilize, and that's the highest rate of success for this hard of a course. So they would be able to help deliver the content during the class time during the day and support them. In addition, we have the ASU faculty member on the other end who is grading and providing content and is also instructor of record for the ASU transcript. Some of the other things we liked about this program compared to things we've tried in the past, they get to start with a very small fee of $25, which CTE can pay for this pilot and going forward if it is content that we're paying for like that. So we'll get access to the curriculum, which is great, which is going to be put on display for a 60-day review of materials. They provided all that up front for us. So we can enroll the students ourselves real easily. We don't have to wait for them to go to ASU to do that. And then they get to decide at the end if they want to add the course to their transcript or not. So if they get a C or better, they can opt to pay to have the credit move over onto a college transcript, not just their high school. These are some of the other benefits that stood out to me when they came to present to SUSD. I did hyperlink that first bullet, but it's the other handout that you have there on the course itself that is from their catalog describing CIS 105. They would get tutoring services as well, which I think is a huge boon for kids to have access to that. On the support side for our teacher, they would be able to access the grading dashboard and see assignments being done. They'd be able to see everything that the ASU faculty member is facilitating asynchronously. And then they can also, we could ask for a personalized website for just our learners, which I think would be nice. So the main reason would be it would offer more access of this course if we used ASU As I put in the background notes, the way that it's set up for SCC, they can only approve people with a master's degree in business or computer information services. That's just the way it's set up for their accreditation for that class. So we have a really tough time getting people to have that for dual enrollment. This way, we would be able to assign any CTE teacher that's got the right business certificate for CTE to do this particular class. So every campus essentially who had that class could do it. That business operations class, right now, the title of that is My Digital Brand. We've offered business operations off and on over the years. It's an elective, so sometimes it makes it a campus and sometimes it does not. But if it does make, then we could have the teacher of that class be the facilitator. Are there any questions?
Board members, are there any questions or comments? I see none. I have one question, Ms. Downs. You described the $25 upfront fee, and then there's a back-end fee if the student and family is, wishes to have the grade affixed to the transcript. What's that back-end cost? Do you know?
$400 for the student to pay it directly. There is an option in there that we could consider down the road of doing a consolidated billing to get a discount. That seemed a lot more complicated, but not out of the question, where then we're collecting money from students and then ferrying it over to ASU. It would give them a discount, so it's not out of the box to maybe consider doing that as well. But for the pilot, it seems simplest to just let the kids who want to pay ASU directly.
Okay. I think this is very interesting. Do the students have to go through the ASU application process? It looks like not, but can you clarify that?
No, they do not.
Okay. All right, great. This is very interesting. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, great. Thank you, Ms. Downs.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to our first action item, 5A, second read and approval of the Cheyenne K through 5 math curriculum adoption for 2024-25 school year. Who will be are we going to have just? Okay, we have the appropriate people here to answer any questions. Since this is a second read, there is no presentation, correct? Are there any follow-up questions by any board members? I see none. In that case, is there a motion?
Motion to approve Saxon math for the next 3 years. Thank you.
Ms. Warner made a motion to approve the second read and approval of the Cheyenne K through 5 math curriculum adoption for 2024-25 school year as proposed. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Carney seconds. We're going to do a roll call vote here, please. Ms. Warner?
Aye.
Ms. Carney?
Aye.
Ms. Zanowski?
Yes.
Mr. Lindsay?
Yes.
And I am a no. That motion passes 4-1. All right, thank you, Dr. Dodds-Karen. Let's see. We're going to move on to our second action item 5B, second read and approval, governing board policy BDE regarding board committees. And that one is going to be handled by myself. So in compliance with policy BGB, this is a second read of a proposed amendment to policy BDE directed to board committees. To ensure and protect the integrity of the governing board and its objectivity, transparency, and accountability to its own rules, this proposed amendment brings BDE in alignment with the board ethics policy, BCA. Further, the intent of the governing board appointing an advisory committee is to ensure objectivity, transparency, and accountability, not to its individual members, but rather to its stakeholders. Because the governing board retains ultimate decision-making of the board committees, it's unnecessary to have governing board membership on those committees. I have to wonder if BDE were amended as proposed this evening, would the Attorney General have rendered the initial opinion on the open meeting law consideration of certain committees that existed years ago. Lastly, I want to address a few items that were brought up during the first read. The Self-Insurance Trust Board has been determined to be not a board committee and therefore falls outside of the scope of policy BDE. And the Audit Committee, which was established under policy DIE, operates under a board-approved charter which does not contemplate a sitting board member participating on that audit committee in any capacity. It was at the discretion of this board that a board member was added. The proposal ceases participation by any sitting governing board member on an advisory committee starting July 1st, 2024, which is the outset of fiscal year 2025. Are there any follow-up questions or comments? Seeing none, I move to approve.
No, I do.
Oh, Ms. Carney?
Thank you, President Hartwells. As I suggested at our, during the first read, I don't see a need to exclude board members from board committees, especially when you voted for that new language to be put into policy on February 22nd, 2022. I also suggested a compromise at that same meeting that we could consider doing what other neighboring districts do and allow board members to appoint representatives to their board committees, but I see that you didn't add that in or take that compromise. So I just don't see why we would be trying to exclude board members from board committees.
They're advisory committees that provide advice to the board. Any other comments or questions? Ms. Sanowski?
Thank you, President Dr. Hartwells. It has been my perspective that if board members are included in advisory committees, they are providing potentially undue influence on the work of the committee, and that negates the authenticity of the committee. And I appreciate this coming forward so that we can actually value the work of our committees and the recommendations they make to the board for our final approval.
Any other questions or comments at this time? All right, I move to approve the second read and approval of the governing board policy BDE regarding board committees as proposed. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
No.
No.
That motion fails 2-3. Moving on to 5C, action of a hearing officer's recommendation to expel the student, case number 232403. I move to approve the action of the hearing officer's recommendation to expel the student, case number 232403. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes 5-0. All right, we are now moving to, we have two potential executive sessions. The first one, bless you, item 6A, the governing board may recess into executive session pursuant to ARS 38-431.03A1 for the purpose of providing input to the superintendent regarding the evaluation of general counsel. And this is a performance evaluation. All those in favor to move, well, is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to move into executive session as stated previously.
There are two, so could you just please clarify, Ms. Sanowski,
Yes, I'm
which
sorry.
one?
To recess into executive session pursuant to ARS 38-431.03A1 for the purpose of providing input to the superintendent regarding the evaluation of general counsel.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Carney seconds. And we'll do both of these in a row before we recess into executive session. All those in favor of 6A for executive session to provide input to the superintendent regarding the performance evaluation of general counsel, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. That motion passes 4-1. Let's go ahead and do the other one, so then we'll move into executive session and know our topics. The next item is 6B. The governing board may recess into executive session pursuant to ARS 38-431.03A3 and 4 to receive legal advice from and to provide direction to the attorney for the public body regarding the superintendent's contract of employment. I move to move into that executive session for that purpose, to receive legal advice from and to provide direction to the attorney for the public body regarding the superintendent's contract of employment. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? All right, that motion passes 5-0. All right, we are going to convene into executive session. The board will move to a different meeting, and the public is invited to stay in your seats if you would like while we have our executive session, and we will return to this room when we are finished. Thank you. right, we are reconvening our special meeting. We need a motion. I move to reconvene this special meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Sinowski. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes 5-0. We will move to our action items. 8A. First is the approval of the General Counsel's contract of employment. I make a motion to approve the General Counsel's contract of employment. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Sinowski seconds. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
That motion passes 3-2. Moving on to our last action item, 8B, approval of superintendent's contract of employment per the terms discussed in executive session. I move to approve the superintendent's contract of employment per the terms discussed in the executive session. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Sinowski. All those in favor, please say aye.
I have
Aye.
a comment. I want to explain my vote.
We will do a roll call. How about that?
Thank you.
All
Perfect.
right, we will do a roll call vote, starting with Ms. Warner.
So, I'm unable to share the details of the contract with the people who will be paying for it, you, the taxpayers. The system is flawed. The process is like Washington, D.C. Sometimes you have to pass it before you can see it. Golden parachutes and buyouts negotiated behind closed doors does not foster trust or transparency in the community. The current contract in place until June 2025 is $216,000 plus a 20% performance pay with an additional nearly $100,000 in perks and benefits that has come out of that comes out of taxpayer funds, and you didn't know about it, and neither did the board until a question was asked very recently. The leadership is consistent, and many of our schools experience instability, and it saddens me for our students and our staff. It was brought to my attention this week that SUSD has had very many changes in principals over the last 4 years. 41, as a matter of fact, in our 30 schools. That is not consistent or stable. I cannot support the extension of the superintendent contract. Let's wait till next year and see if things are better. With that, I vote no.
Ms. Carney? Please observe the rules of decorum. Thank you. Ms. Carney, your vote, please.
Thank you. I'd like to explain my vote. So I was never asked my opinion on this contract extension before being presented with the contract and the agenda item, and I don't understand how we can give a contract extension and a raise to our superintendent before receiving any feedback from principals or direct reports. As a board, we should have waited until we held his annual evaluation, which is coming up in June, and no contract extension should be given without that information. It's obvious that this is a self-serving political move, and as outgoing board members using undue influence and power to disrupt future board business. Dr. Menzel's current contract is through June 20th of 2025. Therefore, I'm a no.
Thank you, President Dr. Hartwells. I'll explain my vote too. All governing board members have had constant contact with our superintendent, our only employee of this district. On a regular basis, superintendent meets with governing board members to receive feedback on the results of his work. I think it is absolutely ridiculous that governing board members try to make this a political issue when this is an employment contract. And with that, I will vote yes for approving the contract as we discussed in executive session.
Vice President Lindsay.
Yes.
And for myself, I just, to clarify the record, superintendent contract is a public record. It has been available to the public for 2 years, and this one will be too, if it is approved. Further, all board members have had an equal opportunity to provide their feedback and input, and I want to thank the staff for the many data calls that were made and that you were responsive to get us to this point. I vote yes. That motion passes 3-2. Congratulations, Dr. Menzel. All right, I move to adjourn this special meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded, and that is inappropriate, sir. All those in favor, please say aye to adjourn. Aye?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. The time is 8:06. Thank you.